When I was very young, I dreamed to be an astronaut. Space physics allow you to really touch space, interpret what you see with your instruments really on site. And it is very different with respect to looking at the telescope, which looks at things far away.
I was 14, and at that time I thought I wanted to be an astronomer because my parents gave me a telescope the year before for Christmas, and I liked looking at the stars and the planets. And then we went on holiday, and I found an Italian newspaper in a trash can on the beach, really. And I digged it out because there were photographs from the surface of Mars. And I thought, how cool is that? And then on the next page there was a group picture with, I don't know, 100 scientists and engineers. They all had grey hair, they all looked very boring and unfashionable, and I thought, I want to be one of those guys.
I remember that when my father was a physics teacher, saying that you look this star is very, very far away. In fact, it emitted the light 70 years ago, and you are looking this star and maybe it's now extinct, but you will know that 70 years after. And for me, it was not the physics or the mathematics which attracted me at the beginning. It was the part of the dream, to imagine how they are.
So I was a student in elementary school. I watched the movie about the Mars by Arnold Schwarzenegger. In the story, there was some oxygen in the polar ice, and at the time I didn't believe it. But in the homework of my school, I searched about the Mars in the book, and yes, there was some statement about such possibility, oxygen in the polar ice, and I was so surprised. And after that, I hoped to do such work, so especially for planets. And so yes, it was my dream, and now I believe to work on that belief.
You're living your dream.
Yeah.
It's one small step for man.
When I was young, I wanted to be a spaceman, and I had a big space encyclopedia, like this thick. That book was full of facts about Mercury, but how many of those have changed? When I saw the OU advertising this position of geological mapping on the planet Mercury, I thought, this is the best thing ever. And I'm just happy to be able to contribute to the understanding of this small planet.
Well, I started off with archaeology, which actually in some ways is very similar to what I do, which is geology. You're just going further back in time, you're going before there were human beings. And the thing is, when I started to look into geology, I realised that, oh, actually, rocks are great, but rocks in space are even better.
I remember watching Horizons, showing the flyby of Neptune and the first images that were coming back. And I remember just sitting watching this programme and thinking, I want to do this. I wrote to NASA when I was about 14, and as far as I was concerned, I think I was a bit like writing to Father Christmas. I didn't really expect anybody to respond. But actually they wrote back and they said, you know, great, you want to work in space, then this is what you need to do. You need to work very hard, you need to study science and maths, you need to go to university. And again, I found that quite inspirational because I didn't expect anyone to write back. And the fact that they wrote back and actually gave me some really good advice and took me seriously as that being a job that I really wanted to do, and sort of set me on my way towards doing the job that I do now.
The problem with astronomy, lovely though it is that you can never go there. You can look at Rigel or Betelgeuse or whatever and find out all sorts of wonderful things about it, but there's none of that hands-on sort of thing which you get in planetary science. It's got that sort of almost, you know, a local feel of we can go there and we can have a look at it, and yeah, that's fantastic.
I was fascinated by things like Apollo. I may not look it, but it was a little bit before my time. I found that whole thing just to be so inspiring, and it made me want to understand more about the way the solar system works. And I remember from being very small being so interested in the way they were able to build something that was capable of going to the moon.
I grew up being interested in space, not just planets, variable stars and stuff,
And that's vaguely what I want to do. I had visions of being an astronomer, and I went to university and discovered geology, which I was much better at than the mathematics, but you needed to be a good physicist. So I became a geologist. And then the chance came along to start working on other planets. So I've kind of gone full circle via the Earth. It's great to study the Earth, but when you've studied the Earth, you realise, well, let's do a bit of compare and contrast with these other bodies.
Most boys and girls, I suppose, are interested in the unknown. I mean, from very young childhood, everything is an unknown, and as you grow up, less and less in your immediate vicinity becomes unknown, and then we seek to find new unknowns. With television and movies and sci-fi and Star Trek and all of the stuff that we're exposed to growing up in space caught me, and it hasn't let me go since.
What keeps me passionate about my job is the fact that I have an opportunity, which I think is an amazing opportunity, to learn things about our solar system before anybody else finds out.
For me, the exciting thing is you get some data and then you try to work out what it means. You can pull together data from lots and lots of different strands, and suddenly this story emerges. And sometimes that's difficult because a story that makes lots of sense to you suddenly turns out to be wrong because you get this extra bit of data. But the challenge of that is actually part of the joy of it.
The international work together and making things possible that seems quite difficult. You may remember also the Rosetta mission. I mean, launching a spacecraft here, many years it sends through the space, and then it finds a comet. It's even able to land a lander on that. I mean, that is great, isn't it? It's a passion for sure.
I don't know any planetary scientist who can't look up at the moon and wonder, you know, just be amazed by it. And so being able to actually go out and look at some of these planets with robotic spacecraft is such an incredible, fantastic thing to be able to do, and to do it for a living, to be able to do something that you love, to look at alien worlds for a living. I'm just so lucky. I have the best job in the world.